Hi, it's Griggs with Obsidian Wisdom. Today we discuss retirement planning at 50 years old. Today you have a treat. I put together a retirement plan for you where we took a family that was saving about 5% of their salary in their 401k to where we had over $2 million set aside of tax-free money for their retirement plan. We'll go through each of the steps where you can see where they went from not sure what to do with their money to being able to know exactly how much money they need to invest and how successful they're going to be. So what you'll see here is we went from a 0% chance of success to an 83% chance of success. And I'll go through what that even means for you when it comes to their retirement plan. Whenever you're putting together a retirement plan or a financial plan of some kind, it's always good to know what your net worth is. So you can see in this situation, we have $365,000 in assets. We have $170,000 in liabilities. And that gives us a net worth of $195,000. And all that is you take the assets, you subtract the liabilities, and that's your net worth. Most of your net worth is going to be created from your home, whatever it's worth and the appreciation that it's gone through. And most of your liabilities tends to be your mortgage. Now, for some people, it could be student loans, cars, credit cards, and things like that. But for the average situation, it's going to be your mortgage as your number one liability. And so what we have here, you can see is we have the value of the home, which is $350,000. We have $15,000 in cash. So that gives us $365,000. And then we have about $15,000 in credit cards, about $150,000 in mortgage, and you have about $5,000 in other debts. And that leaves us with about $170,000, which gives you the net worth of $195,000. And then when you look in the liquidity for the average person, we normally want to have 3 to 6 months. It really depends how comfortable you are with the idea of not being able to generate an income. Ideally, as we have more and more money that's being generated from your investments, you might feel more comfortable having less and less in an emergency fund where you have more and more of your money being put to work to generate you more money. It really depends on each individual person, but on average, we normally say, look, you want to have fun between 3 to 6 months. If you're someone who's high level, then you may want to have up to 12 months. And that's usually the highest that we'll tell people. If you have about a year of your money sitting in cash, you really are prepared for almost anything. And so it doesn't make sense to have too much of your money sitting in cash because you could make a better return by having that money being used in some other way. So for most people, anything over a year, you should be investing that money. And so in this particular situation, this couple makes about $190,000 between the two of them. One of them makes $100,000, one of them makes $90,000. So we would say, all right, you need about $25,000 set aside to make sure that your guys are comfortable. They have $15,000, so they would have a shortfall of about $10,000. For some people, you have a credit card and you're just fine with it. For others, they would like to have it in cash. It really, of course, is something that depends on each individual person. Now let's go ahead and we'll take a look at some of the retirement information. So we click on the retirement tab, you can see what their original plan was, and I'll go through that with you. And it had a 0% probability of success, and you see that the plan we put in place has them at 83% probability of success. For most people, we shoot for 80% because, again, the average person isn't going to live to 90, but we're putting a plan together that ensures that you have money at 90 and beyond. As a result, 80% normally hits all of the markers. And you can also see what we're saying is 83% of the time you will have $2.5 million sitting in the account at 90 years old of tax-free money when you pass that you would then need to figure out what you want to do. You want to donate it to a charity, you want to donate it to your kids. What do you want to do with the money? Because you have it. I will show you some of the changes that we made to the plan and we'll walk through it. So the big goal that Mark and Lisa had is they wanted to be able to retire at 65 years old. As you see, we did not change that. That was the current plan. We're able to maintain that. And so you can see as we continue on in this particular retirement plan, we only had to come up with $5,000 a month. That's what they originally wanted. That's what we achieved. Now, what we ended up doing, and there's a couple ways that you can do it, and I'll walk you through it. For most people, I say, look, we have to get 20% of your money is being invested. And you can see on this particular plan, I got them to 18.8%. As I mentioned, they have about $190,000 together. We need to invest about 20%. That gives them about $36,000 we need to invest. Now, before you say, well, Dre, that's not possible, I can't do that. Twofold. One is if you're in your 50s, you most likely, if you had kids, they're gone and they're grown. And as your kids leave, it should lower a lot of your other expenses. The second thing that you also want to keep in mind is if your plan is to have your money work for you, we have to live on less than what we make. There's really only 3 choices that we have when it comes to our relationship with money. We either spend less than what we make, we either spend all that we make, or we either spend more than what we make. Those are the only 3 choices you have with money. For me to be able to do my job successfully, you have to spend less than what you make, where that allows me to then allocate the money. For most people, if you can live off of 80% of your income, we can put a plan together for you to achieve financial freedom and have a wealthy retirement. but you have to be able to live on less than what you make. If you're among the US $1 trillion worth of debt that we've been taking on as inflation has gone up just to make ends meet, then you know that that is not sustainable. That as cards get maxed out, as you open new accounts, eventually there's too many plates spinning. And as your credit starts going down, they'll start closing the limits, they'll start declining new cards. And so you have to put a plan in place anyways. And so in my mind, we might as well already take the steps to say, you know what, whatever I make, I'm going to live off of 80% of my income. And then I can invest the other 20%. And then at some point, it doesn't really matter what type of job you have. We're going to have so much money working that is going to create more opportunities for you. So you can see as we continue on, they had about 5% in their 401k and we upped that to 10%. They weren't investing anything in an after-tax brokerage account, which is a very fancy way of saying that they have all of their money in pre-tax assets, which means that all of it is going to be taxed when they retire. Uncle Sam is going to tax you at least once, always at least once, if you do a good job. If you do a bad job, he's going to tax you more than once, but he's going to tax you at least once. So if all your money is in an account that has not been taxed yet, that means that all you have is taxable income in retirement. So for most of my clients, I think it's a really good idea for us to diversify, even on a tax perspective, where you have some money that's already been taxed that we're investing, which could be taxed at capital gains and have a very favorable tax bracket versus your traditional income tax. And so we said, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have the $10,000 that goes towards that, 10% in your investment. And then we're going to open each of you up a Roth and we're going to go to the limit, which is about $6,000, $6,500. And so these are the buckets that we're going to be taking 20% of their salary and adjusting. Now, as far as their pre-retirement expenses, what they currently have $6,000 a month in expenses. And then about 80% of that is the $5,000 a month. So that's normally what you would expect. The allocation I gave them is the butterfly allocation, and the butterfly allocation is a very nice one. It's one of those set it and forget it allocations where you have 20% of your money going into the total stock market, 20% in small cap, 20% in long-term bonds, 20% in short-term bonds, and 20% in gold. So you have your money allocated in a way that gives you a little bit of comfort in a variety of economic situations where something is always doing well and something is always not doing its best. But as a result, you have the ability to have a really good year, even when everyone else may be losing money. And for those that are interested in creating their own golden butterfly allocation, if you're going to be using ETFs, then you're really not concerned about anything except the overall expense ratio. So I found the 5 lowest total expense ratios where you end up with a 0.05 expense ratio on all 5 of the investments. So when it comes to the 20% in the total stock market, you would use the ITOT iShares, the Vanguard VBR for your small cap, the Vanguard VGLT for your long-term bonds, the Vanguard VGSH for your short-term bonds, and then you would use the iShares IAUM for your gold. As far as Social Security, we're going to take advantage of that at the retirement age, which is currently set at 65. And then you can see the debt proposal. I'll show that to you. They have about $15,000 in credit cards. And I put a link to another video where I give a couple of the strategies to get out of debt if you have debt. And then the distribution strategy is where all the magic happens, and I will show that to you. And then the last section is the retirement spending. There's a few ways that we can set it up, but for the average person, we do what's called a retirement spending smile. And what it means is when we first retire, we spend a lot of money because there's a lot of things that we want to do. We have a whole list of things that we want to do. And so we're going to start doing them. We're going to travel. We're going to go to these places. We're going to experience all these amazing things. And so we spent a pretty good amount of money at the beginning of our retirement. But then we slowly start spending a little bit less, right? We've gone to the restaurants, we traveled all the places, we checked off all the bucket lists, and then we just kind of hang out with family. So you start seeing that we spend less. That's the smile, it decreases. But then as we get a little older, we have healthcare issues going on. As you guys know, 70% of people who are 65 and older will have at least one long-term care episode. And so that normally means the end of it, we increase. So 89, 90, we should end up spending more on healthcare. And so you see that. That's what the smile is. And I'll show that to you. But let's go ahead and I'll show you exactly how we're able to go from a 0% probability with no money and us running out to $2.5 million and an 83% probability of success. So first, let's look at the confidence. And all this is showing is, hey, what's the probability of having a certain amount of money? And then you can see what that dark line is. That's the line that we give the clients when it's like, hey, this is what we expect us to have. And as you can see, even when you look at it at 90 years old, and you can see we have a 5% chance of having $0 at 90 or $12.5 million at 90, right? And you can see we have that middle 50%, that 25 to 75%, where we have somewhere between $700,000 and $5 million, right? That is the very high probability of happening. And then when you get to the median of that, that's the 2.5 million. So it's a number that we feel very confident about because we've run through a variety of situations and simulations. And I find that most people are very concerned with, I just don't know how much I can spend. I don't know how much I would have. And that's partially because we know there are so many different scenarios that could happen in retirement. And just sticking our numbers in a retirement calculator, and then it says every single year we get that percentage of a return, that doesn't help us feel comfortable because we know that that's not very likely. And so that's why this is a really good, we call these Monte Carlo simulators, which is a very fancy way of saying it runs 1,000 scenarios, and then it lets us know what the likelihood of success is. So here we'll go to the tax tab, and then we'll click on distributions, and we'll show you where all the magic happens. Now, this is where a lot of people miss out on the opportunity to really create a wealthy retirement plan. We underestimate how much Uncle Sam is going to take from us in taxes. We have all of our money in pre-tax investments. And because you do that, you end up being taxed at regular income level all throughout your retirement, which is naturally not when we want to be taxed. So what I will show you is this is how it originally started. So this was the current plan. And what you can see here, what you'll notice is these are you'll see the little lines. So the gold one up here, that's the 24 to 28% tax bracket. This one down here in the middle, this is the 22 to 25% tax bracket. And you see that that's where we were at for the most part. We were right around here. And then you can see that as we retired, we shifted from our regular income to our investable assets, and then it disappeared here around 69 years old. That's when we ran out of money. Now you'll see what the proposed plan does, where now we have money out here to 90. Okay, well, what's changed? And what you'll see is there's this little green line. You can sort of see it. What that is those are Roth conversions. And Roth conversion is basically a very fancy way of saying we're taking money that's in your 401k and we're rolling that into an IRA, and then we're rolling the IRA into a Roth. And when you do that, you do have to pay taxes on turning your IRA into Roth, whatever the income would be for that year. But what we do is we only do it on tax years. Let me show you. And what we'll do is we'll set it up where it only fills it up on tax years where your income taxes are estimated to be below 22 to 25%. So if your income levels were low enough where maybe you're only going to be taxed 10 or 15% in a certain year, well, what we'll do is we'll do Roth conversions where we'll roll it into an IRA and then we'll do it back to a Roth is what it's called. And then we'll make sure that you're paying basically that 22% tax bracket throughout your retirement. Now you can see it really picks up when you first retire because you don't have any of your active income. So you have a very low tax bracket. And as a result, we did huge amounts of Roth conversions. And then as a result, it ended up creating the opportunity where all of your money was tax free. Because you were able to save so much money on taxes, it ended up creating an additional $1.3 million in your retirement account. Now, let me show you exactly what that looks like. So you can see the proposed plan, you end up with 4.4 million as the ending portfolio, and you have 100% tax-free money, which is phenomenal. You'll see the pro rata without the conversion. Pro rata just means you equally take it out of each account. Only 5% was tax-free. Even if we ended up adjusting it, so instead of it being pro rata, where it's common for people to do taxable, tax deferred, and then tax-free. So that's the common approach that many people will take. And you can see that that only created 13% of your income tax-free if you did not do the Roth conversions. And then it actually had your portfolio ending about $2 million less than what it would have. So it actually was a worse situation than just going pro rata. Now, let me show you what it looks like when you really get into the details. So what you can see here is right here's us at 50 in 2023. This is the amount of the conversion that we did. Basically, anytime our taxes are estimated to be below that 22%, we're going to do whatever the conversion is to have us at that 22% tax bracket. And so you can see that that number adjusts each year. Now, once we get to the part where we retire at 65, then we're able to do huge conversions and still maintain that 22% tax bracket. And then we're done. As a result of now being done with all those conversions, you then do the normal process where you withdraw from your taxable accounts. And then once those are done, you move into your tax-free accounts. And then that's all that we're living on. So you can see that in our tax-free accounts, once we hit 73 years old, we have 1.8 million. And then we have the 25,000 that's set in there. And then we're able to keep spending out of that account. And we're able to maintain our investments because we have a relatively all season type of a portfolio. You may have heard Ray Dalio's fancy phrase, the all season. It just means that we have an investment strategy that we feel relatively comfortable with, where we don't have to make a lot of changes regardless of our age. Now, granted, we can, depending on everybody's personal risk tolerance, but this worked for this particular situation. And as a result of us being able to do that, being able to do those Roth conversions each year, it ended up creating an additional $2.5 million overall. And that's how we're able to take them from a 0% chance probability of success to an 83% chance of probability of success, where we went from 5% of your retirement income being tax free to 100% of your retirement income being tax free. And you'll see we did it by controlling the things that we can control. We can control how much we're spending of our money. So we're investing 20% of our salary, regardless of where you're at. If you can invest 20% of your salary, there's a good probability that we'll be able to put a wealthy retirement plan together where all your money is generating additional money for you. We also were able to focus on the tax component of diversifying not only your investment, but diversifying your taxable income, where most people have all of their money in their 401k. And then when you retire, all of your money is being taxed at your regular income tax bracket. And our fingers are crossed that they haven't raised taxes from historical lows of 2023 to possibly somewhere even slightly higher. If you're really taking into consideration that we're historical lows, we're debts at all-time highs, and we have wars on multiple fronts, then it would seem it would be a better approach for us to make sure that we lock in some of the tax income now to where it's not taxed in retirement when we really want the money. And once you do that and you just maintain the investments and you're disciplined on the strategy, that it's very reasonable to be able to put a 15-year plan together where you invest 20% of your salary, averaging about an 8% return, which is about the stock market average. And you just are strategic in your investment allocations to be able to have that $1 million that you need in retirement. It's a very reasonable goal and a very doable goal. If you're not sure if you're on the right retirement footing and you don't want to waste years of trialing and erroring different investment strategies where you may waste years and thousands of dollars, then you just go ahead and go to obsidianwisdom.com/wealthy. And there I give you my framework on how to create a wealthy retirement so that you can make sure that you don't have to worry about money. I'm always thankful for your time, and I do appreciate you spending it with me. If you have any additional questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy life.